Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. It's that time of week again. Everybody's favorite segment, the power rankings. I want to thank everyone. Subs are flowing in, but I don't want to stop now. 1,000 subs really is in my grasp and the channel's grasp, the community's grasp. If you guys aren't subbed, and I know 80 to 85% of you that watch this video are not subbed, please go down there and do it. If I can hit 1,000 by the end of this season, I will be forever grateful, and I'll give away something of merit, maybe a jersey, something to one of the subscribers. So let's hit 1,000 by the end of the season, and there'll be a giveaway. On top of that, I want to announce, in case you haven't seen it yet, I did do a video earlier this week, went over kind of the playoff picture, how the playoff format's going to be, who I'm predicting to make the playoffs and win the World Series as of right now in this season. You get a gist of it from the power rankings, but the power rankings won't tell the whole story of kind of what I think is going to happen in the long term of things. But the power rankings is more of what the picture looks like now and kind of what I'm feeling each team is feeling now, not necessarily what I kind of hope whatever is going to happen. So number 30, we got the Royals, 0-3 against Cincinnati, 1-2 against the Angels. The Royals took the last spot last week, and they're going to hold on to it for another week. They haven't shown anything to say that they're not the worst team. Arguably, of course, Oakland, who's the next up, number 29, could be that team in last. They have a lot worse runs scored against them, of course, but they had that little bit of a heater over the past 2 weeks, including a split series with Tampa Bay earlier in the week before getting swept by the Phillies. Think it's going to be a sweep. I'm starting these power ranking video as I always do as the afternoon games are wrapping. They're in the 9th inning, and that one, Kimbrel's probably going to come in and close the door. Of course, something could happen. I'm not going to refilm this video, but we got most of the games over. A couple of games are big blowouts, like the Cleveland game over Arizona. And so we're going to keep going through it. And as you know, if you watch this video, I do it before the Sunday Nighter, who we will touch on later. Number 28, we got the Colorado Rockies, 2-1 against Boston, 0-4 against Atlanta. And that series against Atlanta was pretty rough. Earlier today, I thought they might have a shot at stealing one. They got it out to a 5-run lead early, but I guess I should have known better with Chase Anderson on the mound. The Rockies not really having any pitching. The Braves offense came to play and just obliterated Colorado. But they got to be excited. They did play a little bit of spoiler against Boston earlier in the week with that series win. Next up, we got Washington Nationals, 1-2 against Houston, 0-3 against Miami. Cemented basement of the American League East, or National League East. Not much to say at Washington. It's going to be a long season there. 26, 0-3 against San Fran. Before we went 2-1 against the Mets. And as I'm placing this, I remember I was supposed to swap these two around as I was filling out the forms, because the series against the Mets did come into the books, and the Mets were actually number 26 after losing the series. They did split the earlier series with the Yankees earlier in the week, but the Mets have just fallen apart, and as much as Pete Alonso coming back might give them some hope, I don't see the path for the Mets now. Based on how the season's going, they just don't seem to have it. Having lost to the Cardinals over the weekend, and the Cardinals have that same kind of story. These two teams have just been a battle of the basement. Now bottom row, the Mets have reached a new all-time low. I'm pretty sure about that. 24, we got the Detroit Tigers, 1-2 against Atlanta. Really good series over the weekend against Minnesota. They took 3 of 4, and they got to be really excited about that. If it wasn't for all the other atrocious series that I keep seeing from the Tigers, I might be able to start moving them up. But anytime they get some sort of momentum going, they just obliterate it. They had that 9-game losing streak a couple weeks ago that really hurt them. This division's totally wide open. Really, from this point forward, any of these teams can make the playoffs, because a lot of the weaker teams that we're going to talk about next are in the weaker divisions of the Centrals across the board. Number 23, we got the Chicago White Sox, 1-2 against the Dodgers, 1-2 against Seattle. Every time I want to give the White Sox some momentum to go forward, they just don't win. They blow late games in series. They blow the series all around. They never seem to get swept all around, but they don't pick up the win series. And this is a prime example of them not doing it this week against a Dodgers team who of course, is better than them. Maybe stealing one, got to be pretty excited about that. But then they play Seattle over the weekend, a team they have to beat if they're going to be talking playoffs, and they just don't get it done. I think the White Sox at this point are starting to shape up to be a potential big seller at the trade deadline. Number 22, just the one spot ahead of them. 2-1 against Miami, 2-1 against the White Sox. So they had a good winning week. Seattle's kind of going under the radar of a lot of people right now, myself maybe included. If they keep winning these 2-1 series, they're going to inch their way back into it. They're a team that is capable of being competitive. We saw them in the playoffs last year, and not a whole lot different this year that this team could be in the hunt, but they have a lot of work cut out for them because their division is so strong. Right now, they're steadily in 4th place. They're going to have to start picking up some sweeps against some of these weaker teams, possibly against their division, and get some win streaks going to get back in this playoff hunt. Number 21, we got the Cleveland Guardians, 1-2 against San Diego, 1-2 against Arizona. They were asked about in my playoff prediction video. I didn't even talk about them. They didn't even make the little category I had of, they're going to be close to the playoffs, but not in there. I just don't see the Guardians being able to do it. And this is a prime example of a reason why. Played 2 teams that are like better than average in the league, lost both series. Sure, each series they had a big game where the offense came. I just don't see the consistency there. And this team, they do have it luckily, like they're second in the division by being in this spot on the board, which does have that advantage. Of course, they could make the playoffs. I only think one Central team's going to do it. And right now, I have them in second. So can they win? Just win against their division and they're in? Sure. But that's pretty much the only way they're going to do it, because right now they're not beating teams to give them more hope, give me more hope in them. Number 20, dropping a few spots, just an atrocious week for the Pirates. 0-6 on the week, got swept by the Cubs, got swept by the Brewers. This was supposed to be a statement week for the Pirates to show that they have arrived as a contender of this division, but instead, they completely changed my mind that I don't see them winning this division now. They'll be there, they'll maybe stick around till the end, but watching these 2 series and watching the other red hot team, the Reds, climbing, Pirates they're back behind the 8 ball and they got some work to do. Some call up for them this week. It's going to be exciting. I think it's their number 3 prospect coming up. They're going to be looking for him to make a boost to the lineup. We've seen it done. Maybe it'll happen again. But right now they have a lot of work to do. The Pirates need to start stepping up. Number 19, the Cubs. Just a great week for the Cubs. A team that I've had higher on the board for a little while. They just never got it going. But this is a week that I kind of thought we would see more of the Cubs. They swept the Pirates, and they picked up a big series win over the weekend against Baltimore, a team that has been top row of the board for the last number of weeks. Cubs always seem to be that team. The pitching is there. They keep these low-scoring games, and Orioles fans saw it firsthand this past weekend. They keep you lack of scoring. But 1 week's not going to move you up a couple rows on the board. You need to see some consistency, and that's what it's going to be. If you're going to lead the Central, you got to find some consistency at one point or another, because right now no teams are doing it. One of the most consistent teams, however, are the Cincinnati Reds. Hottest team in baseball right now, I think, right? 8 wins in a row. They swept the Astros over this weekend, just wild. I think I had on my post on Friday, every Friday, I make a post on the community board, just the series that I'm most excited to watch over the weekend. This Reds-Houston series was one of those series, and it did not disappoint in terms of what I was looking for there. It showed a Reds team that has the momentum, and they're going to roll with it. Right? If you watch that other video, you'll see that I have the Reds winning the Central right now as my prediction. So not too bad. It's looking pretty good, and we'll see what they can hold on with that. Number 17, Miami Marlins. 1-2 against Seattle, 3-0 against Washington. So it's no doubt at one point or another I was arguing maybe in the season that between the Nationals and the Marlins, who's the worst in the National League East. But the Marlins are clearly ahead. They're above 500. I'm going to keep getting flack, but I just having so much trouble ranking them any higher than this. Sure, they had another winning week. They keep managing to do that. But they're coming up to this next month. I was kind of looking ahead on their schedule. They're going to start playing some American League East teams. We see them going out and playing Toronto this week, and I think they have another tough game. A lot of series coming up for them that is going to be very tough. And if they're going to start to move up the board, they're they're going to have to play above winning baseball over this next month, because that's really where we're going to see if they are for real or not. Up until now, they've had fairly easy schedule compared to most, so I don't put a whole lot of credit into the record, but we'll see. This team has been surprising so far, and I've been known to make a mistake here and there on a team. Number 16, San Diego, 2-1 against Cleveland, 2-1 against Tampa. Closing out the game right now, Tampa technically, I'm seeing over there, we're up 5-2 with a couple innings left. I expect them to close it out. Of course, they might blow that, but either way, got to be somewhat satisfied with the week that the Padres have had, winning both series, making up some ground on their division, showing that they can beat some of the teams that are right there in the thick of it too. They're not just beating up on low teams. Sure, Cleveland, maybe not, but to go in there this weekend and beat Tampa Bay too, that's a big boost of confidence for a team that should be doing a lot better. The bottom half of their batting order has been atrocious, but coming up with the trade deadline, I expect them to maybe address that. I think they have some space for that. Number 15, we got the LA Angels, 3-1 against Texas. What a monster win that was. And then they kind of beat the Royals 2-1. A little bit of a scare there a couple times. Gave up a lot of runs to the Royals and a little bit of concern with the pitching in that series, but they won it. And that's what you need to do if you're going to be in the playoff hunt. And they are very much in the playoff hunt. Right there, smack dab in the middle of it. Number 15 on the board. Next up, number 14. I got the Boston Red Sox. 1-2 against Colorado. So a little rough there, and then so far they're 2-0 against the Yankees. They beat the Yankees last weekend too. Now you're going to probably say maybe they should be higher. They've swept the Jays in 4-game series. They've beaten the Yankees in some series. Why do I have them the worst in the American League East? And it's merely because while they take care of business in those big important series, they've only had a couple of those this season. And other than that, they've lost the series to the Orioles. They've kind of been 50-50 with Tampa, and then they play these series, and it's been like this all season long, it feels like, with the Red Sox, like Colorado, where they just don't sweep. They don't pick up wins. They don't do that. And it's holding them back. It's kept them around 500 on the season, and 500 is going to have you out of the playoffs in this American League East. It's just not going to cut it, and right now I don't see them being able to really break out of that 500 funk. 13, Milwaukee, 0-2 against Minnesota. So, started the week in a Wisconsin battle there, Wisconsin, Minnesota, right there in the Central Americas, and then they come out and they sweep Pirates, the sweep they needed after going 0-2 against Minnesota. Right there, the bounce they needed. They got a red-hot other team with the Reds right on them. The reason I keep them up ahead still is they've been consistent throughout the whole season. They've played very similar baseball all season long. So you kind of know what you're getting with them. Where the Reds are the new up-and-coming team. Well, they're up-and-coming. They have a lot of heart, and we could easily see this gap. When we're talking about the playoff gap here, look at the wild card race, and it's really intense all the way down to here. Detroit's right in the playoff hunt. All these teams are in the playoff hunt. All it takes is a hot streak. Win 10 in a row, you're going from here up to here. These are really tight. The only thing that seems to be for certain is this bottom row is pretty much starting to look pretty cemented. Number 12, and this is where we're starting to look at teams that I'm going to have in the playoffs or right there missing it. We got the Toronto Blue Jays, 1-2 against Baltimore, 1-2 against Texas. They're just falling, and probably could argue to have them a little farther down, but I still think they're better than these teams below them. Jays just can't seem to get momentum. Their pitching is not what we thought it would be. With Manoah not even pitching for them now, Bassett has been hot and cold. There's times where he's pitching the complete game shutout, and there's times like today where he just gets beat up a few times this season. The only saving grace for the Jays so far is that Barrios has been stellar compared to what he was last year, keeping them very much in the hunt, but they got to start playing better. They got to start winning against the Orioles. They got to start winning against their other division teams, because right now the Jays are one of the worst teams in the MLB at playing their own division. That's including the A's, Royals, and Rockies. They're right there in that same category. So if you're not beating your division, you're not making the playoffs. Number 11, one of the biggest climbers of this power rankings, we have the San Francisco Giants, 3-0 against the Cardinals, 3-0 against their division rival Dodgers, and that was such a massive, huge series win. Didn't put them up a whole lot, of course. We've had them as low as the bottom row at one point this season, but I had to give them credit right now because right now Giants are looking really good, and arguably you could put them up even more. But I'm going to hold off because this next week is going to define how hot or how good this Giants team is actually playing. This next week they're playing Arizona and they're playing San Diego, 2 division rivals. Let's see them bring it home. Let's see them have a monster week. And who knows how far they can start to push up this board. Number 10. I always feel so guilty putting this team so high, but at the same time, I kind of have to because they went 2-0 against Milwaukee, 1-3 against Detroit. So, like, how many times am I going to say? I feel like I'm going to say this every week. Minnesota is just failing to put this division away, and I'm worried it's going to come back to haunt them. That's why I have them here. I still think they're by far the favorites to come out of this division with the title. But man, it's getting hard when they go into a series where they can pick up 3 wins, or if they sweep Detroit, they're just like light years ahead of the rest of the division. They just don't do it. And this kind of series has come up for them time and time again. They're gonna run out of time if they don't start pulling it together. Right now, it's a high 10. Gonna keep them there for now, but they're hanging on by the skin of their teeth. Number 9. 1-1 against the Mets, 0-2 against Boston. Really quiet week because they're playing only a 2-game series early in the week. They're playing the Sunday nighter, so there's only 2 of those games in the book. Usually when I have a team kind of in this situation, I don't want to move them too much. It wasn't like a great week for the Yankees, but it was only 4 games from last week. I might have even dropped them a couple of spots just because the other teams around them have been doing very well. But I still find them to be quite a strong team, and not going to hold too much against this. They do have to sort out this Boston thing, because if Boston keeps beating them up, that's going to be a little worrisome. Next up, Arizona, 1-3 against Philly, 2-1 against Cleveland. Gotta be pretty happy with this, but the series against Philly kind of spoke to what I've been concerned about with Arizona, the depth in pitching. Have Zach Gallen go out there. Sure, he's going to pick up a win, but he didn't go in this series because he goes in the Cleveland series, and without him, they're in a world of hurt in a 4-game series against a team that has a lot of depth like the Phillies do, and it showed. So that's kind of what I've been trying to explain with the Diamondbacks. I still think they're a great team. Their pitching has been pretty consistent, but when we start looking at playoff baseball, I get a little bit concerned because every time I look at the Diamondbacks on the box score, they're giving up 5 runs or more, and that is not going to be the key for success in the long term. Right now, they're being very competitive, and I do think they're the kind of team that is going to make the playoffs. Number 7, we got the LA Dodgers, 2-1 against the White Sox, and then 0-3 against the Giants. Dodgers have kind of slowly started falling. I had them in number 4, like solid for a number of weeks, and they're starting to lose favor with me a little bit here. Giving them a little bit of leeway this week. The Giants series was pretty atrocious. It's gonna ring true. At least I'm gonna remember this one for the next couple of weeks, so that's gonna weigh in there for a little bit. But we need to see what the Dodgers are they gonna rebound from this bad week or not? If they don't, then we could see them dropping it's pretty tight when we're talking about these teams right now, from 13 to 7, super tight. Back-to-back losing weeks is gonna have you in a lot of trouble. Number 6. Moving on up, 3-1 against Arizona, 3-0 against Oakland. I think that's 6 in a row. I think they must be playing like 800 baseball over the past month, it feels like, for the Phillies. The Phillies have been one of the hottest teams across the MLB, without a doubt. The one issue with them, of course, is they dug themselves a big hole early. I do remember that they're the reigning World Series runner-ups, and they're starting to come into form this season, and right now I like what I'm seeing. They've actually beat a lot of these teams in this middling row. They had a rough start. I'm not going to hold it too much against them. I'm starting to see this team come to form, and I think a couple of addressing a couple of the bullpen issues at the trade deadline, this team is top-notch again. Number 5, Houston, 2-1 against Washington, 0-3 against Cincinnati. So a lot of people might say, got them too high. That's fine. I can see where you're coming from, but I'm not going to hold an 0-3 against Cincinnati. I'm not really holding that against them too much. Kind of felt like I saw it coming. Hottest team in baseball against World Series champions. They have a lot to prove with these young guys. They just come up to the moment in this time. Wouldn't be surprised to see a little bit of burnout from Cincinnati after coming off this series in their next game. And Houston, they're pros. I expect them to bounce back from this. And I'm not going to hold it too much against them. But of course, you got to keep winning. You got to turn it around at one point or another. Next up, stick in there for Baltimore. 2-1 against Toronto, 1-2 against the Cubs, 500 week. They keep putting up 500 weeks. It's not going to be enough to keep you in number 4, but it's probably going to keep you in the top 10 for the rest of the season if you play 500. Baltimore's shown us what they're capable of. They've shown us they can compete with any team. And they're missing a couple of guys right now, which kind of hurting their batting. Turning the batting lineup up a little bit, but they're right there. They're in every game. I'm never sleeping on the Orioles right now. Number 3, we got Texas 1-3 against the Angels, and then they bounce back with a huge series comeback against the Toronto Blue Jays. After losing the opening game to the Jays, they had lost 4 of their last 5 in this week, and then they bounced back with 2 monster wins, including a come-from-behind win today. So Texas is right there in there. The bats are showing what they're capable of. The pitching, a little bit of a concern, and it's what made me drop them to 3rd because number 2 is probably one of the hottest teams again in baseball. They had a little bit of an easier week playing Detroit, going 2-1, and then sweeping and smashing the Colorado Rockies. But Atlanta seems to be a well-rounded, full unit. And when I'm starting to look at the top spot, and I talk about it, seems like every week lately that it's vulnerable. Atlanta, in my opinion, is the closest team to dethroning the continuous reigning champions. We got the Tampa Bay Rays, 2-2 against Oakland, a kind of rough start, but coming back with there and losing to San Diego too. It's kind of like a weak week, and we're starting to talk about their injuries and what's starting to hold, and if they can hold their own against some of these topper teams. I remember talking back in April saying how much of an easy schedule they've had. They got to start putting up some winning weeks back to back, or else we're going to see one of these teams behind them. They're going to catch them. It's only a matter of time. The consistency's starting to slip for Tampa, but I'm not ready just yet to take them off number 1. But guys, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, smash that like button. Subscribe to the channel, guys. That's all I'm asking for. All 85% of you that aren't subscribed, please just do it. We'll see you guys for that next video. I plan to do all-star ballot maybe this week or something like that, but there will be another bonus video this week, so keep your eyes out for that. Thanks for watching. Peace out.